Right, welcome to the Innovative Pedagogy Podcast. I am your host, Chris Garcia, and today we have a special episode because we are traveling to the grand state of Texas to interview one of the educational tech geniuses and also my cousin, Suzy Garcia. So, Suzy Garcia is an experienced instructional technology coach with a demonstrated history of working in Title I schools. She is currently certified for Google for Education Suite and the Apple operating systems. She holds a Master of Education focus in curriculum and instruction from the University of St. Thomas. And she is currently the coordinator of digital implementation at Aldine Independent School District. Welcome to the program, Suzy.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really excited to be able to work together in this because I've been able to see your journey from the last few years of even just working as a classroom teacher, now to having an influence within educational technology, and even just seeing your posts on Twitter. I think one of the commonalities that I really appreciate and respect is I think you got involved with vocabulary as well, didn't you? Some way.
I did. I became a master certified, FlowCab educator. I've always really found myself to associate with the different ed tech companies that uphold diversity and equity, and Nearpod with FlowCab together, they've hit the mark on that.
Oh,
I really love
absolutely.
that
Oh,
product.
I have a lot of respect for Nearpod as well. We had a professional development with them a few months before the whole pandemic started, but just to see the work that they're doing, and even with vocabulary, that's something I use consistently when I had in my classroom before I have the role I have now. And one of the things I really loved about it is just the music and the ability to just explain tough concepts in all like content standards to students and to give them access to that. I mean, on top of that, who doesn't love hip hop music? We're in the generation. So
It's
it's
one of the most popular ones in the world.
right, right. So that's really, really cool. So, and on top of all of that, being able to see, like, you know what, there's another EdTech Garcia out there that I can, call. And I mean, I've always had a lot of respect for your husband. Honestly, he's like, well, he's older than me, like by a year. So my cousin Rudy, like, I've always loved him and always looked up to him. Even I'm never gonna forget. I don't know if he's ever told you this, but in '95 when he came for a family vacation, we connected really well. And it was actually during the time when the O.J. Simpson case had started. So I don't know if he even remembers, but we actually got to go to the site where some of these things took place. And I was like, my dad and his dad were just very inquisitive with like Law and Order and whatnot. So they really wanted to go visit these things. But I'm never going to forget. It was one of those things where I really connected really well with my cousin. And so I'm really glad you're in the family and have another educator. So I just want to give a shout out to that, and also
Woohoo!
congratulations. You guys are parents, and how old is your daughter?
She just turned 1,
Wow, that is
so
so
she
cool.
was a quarantine birthday as well.
Ah,
It's been wild.
I bet. I can imagine. But I've loved seeing your posts and even just you sharing her. She's so beautiful, and I mean, yeah. I mean, on top
Thanks.
of that, I mean, anybody with the last name of Garcia ends up being really beautiful, anyways. So
Right?
right.
I mean, I liked it so much I took it twice.
There you go. Oh, really? That's also your maiden last
That's
name.
my maiden name.
Wow, that is so
I'm a
cool.
Garcia.
There you go. There you go. That's awesome. All right. Well, let's go ahead and dive into this because I mean, I really wanted to dive into seeing how other school districts, my network, of course, has to do with San Diego County. My influence a lot and the connections that I have to do with a lot of educators here, even some people that I know and educator friends that I have in Northern California. But I figured, you know what? Let me go ahead and step out of my comfort zone and see how other states are responding to this pandemic that are dealing with right now. And these questions are going to be a little loaded, but if just keep a focus on what Aldine Independent School District is doing, because I'd like to model and just to kind of see what these schools are doing. So the first thing I wanted to dive into is how has your district ensured giving students access to the devices they need to fully participate in distance learning?
So, everything with this entire pandemic has been a state of adaptation. It's wild because I remember so clearly that Friday before we went off into spring break, I actually took a half day because we were moving that weekend.
Okay. Wow.
So we moved homes right as the state was starting to shut down, and my team was pulled aside to start coming up with some solutions for an emergency response. And my spring break was spent just trying to figure out how could we in a Title One district, so our entire district qualifies for Title One.
Okay.
How could we ensure that these students who likely do not have access to the technology and internet capabilities at home, how can we ensure that they are still in fact learning? And it was a struggle. I would be lying if I said that we came up with a plan, loved it the first time, and just enacted it, and everything rolled off.
Right.
It did not work that way at all. We recognized that there were a lot of shortages in our educators too. They were not equipped to take things into a virtual world. So we had to put a pause on learning for a little bit, and we had to make it okay that everything that we're giving the students was enrichment the first 2-3 weeks.
Right.
All we wanted to focus on was getting our teachers where they needed to be first,
Okay.
because we could do everything we want to make sure that our students had the devices, but if their teachers had no idea what to do with a virtual format, it was gonna fail. So we spent countless hours trying to get all of our teachers somewhat steady with
Right.
our learning management system. We use Schoology.
Okay.
So we had to get them all trained up on Schoology, throw in a little Google Apps for education. Hey, here's how you can engage them using Nearpod or BrainPop, uh, Flipgrid. We just try to give them a utility belt of let's try this, and
Right.
we're going to do it 1 week at a time. We never took that time to say the school year's done. We always took it 1 week at a time, even though deep down we all knew we weren't going back.
Right.
We just wanted to maintain that calmness of 1 week at a time. Let's just get through this week, and then we'll worry about next week. Once we got that set, we pulled devices from all of the campuses and focused on the graduating seniors and our special education students and our language learners. We wanted to make sure that we could attempt to maintain the services that we need to for the state, and that we could give our graduating seniors the tools that they need to get the credits that they need to be able to graduate on time. Then after those needs were met, then we started to roll out the Chromebooks to the other students. We also had to call upon our community and get hotspots. Most of our students
Yeah.
don't have access to internet. So we extended our Wi-Fi in the campuses so
Hmm.
that the local areas could also benefit from the signal.
Wow.
Um, we told everyone to come and drive through, like come into the parking lot with your devices so that you can use the school's Wi-Fi. We had to get really creative. We had to get really creative with it because we were putting it up against the wall, and we had to come up with a solution. And it wasn't a perfect solution. Having to strip the carts out of the classrooms to try
Yeah.
to distribute that, there were issues.
Yeah.
Kids got Chromebooks that had no keys, or one didn't get a charging cord. I mean,
Right.
there were definitely some faults in it, but I think they did great with what they could in the time frame that they did.
And moving forward, like for this upcoming school year, I take it you're on summer break right now.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So yeah, don't think too much into it because I still want you to enjoy your break. But would it have been the discussions that have there been any discussions at all, or maybe at least questions prior to the school year closing out that you guys have said, all right, when we go back in, these are the things that we need to address in order to make sure that we don't make the same mistakes or we learn from our mistakes? Or is there anything you guys have focused on when it comes to that?
Yeah, there have. We've been joking with the other coordinators that there's like a cohort and a focus group for the focus group,
Hmm.
because there's just constant discussions about it. And so we've been doing a bunch of different focus groups and cohorts to try to address, and now we have this action task and this action group. And but prior to the pandemic, um, we were a 2-to-1 district. We didn't feel that in the locations that most of our students have been, for starters, we didn't want to broadcast that every student from Aldine ISD had a device. And then that household that potentially has, 3, 4, 5 students becomes a target for theft. So we were thinking about the safety of our students, but we were also thinking about how most educators in a one-to-one situation do not truly understand blended learning or understand integration. So oftentimes we walk into a one-to-one classroom and we see digital worksheets, and we don't see true pedagogy and true enrichment that should come with devices.
Right.
Now we recognize that every student needs a device. And we also recognize that there is no more like pre-COVID education. That world of education is gone. Moving forward, we have to be in a place where we can't just stop at any moment, whether it be another hurricane that blows through Houston or another wave of the pandemic. We've recognized that we need to be ready at any time to shut down and hunker down and educate at home. So we are looking at a plan at moving one-to-one and having like an onboarding process for our students,
Hmm.
for our parents, and our teachers, because we realize all the stakeholders need to be educated on how to maneuver virtual education.
Right. Right. That actually leads me to just a question I'm just thinking of right now. Do you guys have any schools that are completely 100% online and virtual within your district?
We do. We do have an online school, normally used for credit recovery, but we do have a high school plan that was totally online.
Okay.
But that's a pretty asynchronous style of learning, and
Right. Okay.
they had their design already set up, so they went on like nothing had ever
Right.
happened.
Right.
Um, it's hard to switch from synchronous learning to asynchronous with nothing in between to set you up.
Right. It is. Yeah. Okay. No, and that's interesting just because I've seen there's a lot we have several charter schools here, even in Southern California, that are completely 100% online. And even talking to a friend of mine that's a tech director for one of them, I asked her, like, what have you guys been doing? And I remember her saying, like, business as usual for us. So just like what you just said,
Hmm.
just business as usual. The only thing we've had to do is we've actually had to stop enrollment, like, because there's a lot of parents out there. They just, okay, I want my, so they've actually had to cap out enrollment. So like, sorry, we're not taking anybody in anymore. If you're
Yeah,
in, you're in, and if like that's it. So yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of schools, like you just mentioned, it's like there's no more pre-COVID. Everything's going to be digital learning, blended learning, staggered schedules. I mean, there's a lot of great ideas out there, and I think we're going to hit the second wave. No pun intended, but with education of like, all right, let's try something else. Let's experiment with these different things. And speaking of experimenting and supporting students, especially with equitable, one of the questions that I did want to address was, um, have there been what kind of conversations has your school district had when it comes to supporting students with disabilities who may need that extra support? Because that's a specific category of students that brings a lot of concern when it comes to giving them just that education that they rightfully deserve. So, what kind of discussions have you guys had on that?
that one has been a tough one. That stayed at the forefront from the very from day one. It was, how are we going to service these students? And part of it was the legal obligation, but a large part of it was we can't we can't do wrong by these kids. And some of our campuses are specifically designed for our special needs students. And trying to train those teachers up, and I felt for their frustration because they're saying, well, this student can't see. They need visual support. So
Mhm.
I can't use this tool, or this tool. How can you adapt and modify all of these things online? It it took a lot. It took a lot of planning and a lot of research, and I feel like we did an okay job. I don't feel like we truly service them like we should, but that's the beauty of this, that no one knows what they're doing. So
Right.
we're all trying to adapt and figure out the best solution for our kids. So we're looking into different products that will, you know, offer that option. So maybe these students need more of a synchronous style of learning where we are on a Meet link or a Zoom link, or the Schoology conference. Um, we're really trying to figure out how to best service these kids, because each student has such an individual need,
Mhm.
whether it's a mobility issue, or they're deaf, or they're blind, or they don't have the ability to read currently. There's just so many, and trying to solve one ends up, you know, revealing another, and
Right.
we're playing with the spinning plates on all the different sticks, trying to figure out how to maintain all of them. But we're heavily relying on all of these different resources to provide that tiny little individual piece that we need. Um, but the conversations are still going. They're still planning, and we're actually holding a mini internal conference specifically for our special needs and ELL learners, because they have a different they will learn at a different capacity, and our teachers need to be prepared to teach in a different capacity,
Right. Right.
whether it's face to face or online. So we're duking it out. We're trying to find this
Absolutely.
right solution.
Have you guys considered still? I know, like even within my school district, so mine isn't as extensive as yours because we only go from kindergarten through sixth grade, and then we have
Hmm.
another district in our city of Chula Vista and region that goes from seventh grade through 12th. But some of the discussions we've had have been still having either staggered schedules or smaller class sizes for kindergarten through third grade, because that's like the formation of like phonetic awareness and being
Yes.
able to read, but then also for our special day students and special ed students. So has there been any discussion as far as possibly at least having an in-person face-to-face class, of course with like the mask and social distancing and I mean all the personal protection equipment? Have you guys still kind of toyed around with that idea?
We have. They continue to provide the different um, options, and they've been toying around with different options. We're maintaining the same academic schedule. Um, Last I heard, we're still going to plan on attending day one face to face, with modifications. What those modifications are going to be, that's yet to come out. And I know that's kind of all the districts are sitting there with. We've got three different options, and we'll see in August which option we go with.
Right, right,
Um, but right now, they're trying to have us move forward with, we're going to start together, but we'll likely end up closing, and we'll be prepared for that. Because yeah, we need to get those kids in. It's really hard to service them distant, but we'll find a way. We will
yeah,
find a way.
absolutely, absolutely. And that leads me to the next question that really, when it comes to finding the way, and thankfully, I mean, I know you've been in this is going to be what, year 8 or 9 for you going into the profession?
9, 8.
But- Okay,
I
because
don't even know.
I think I'm a year behind you because this is going to be year 8 for me, and but the thing is, I've noticed, and God bless, really, just like a lot of our veteran teachers out there, and like you mentioned earlier, but like my heart really goes out for a lot of these teachers that, and I mean, and you know it. I mean, we have teachers in our district that still struggle with checking their email. So going from like just that and immediately telling them, all right, you need to be like comfortable with Google Suite for education and have like from going from just checking your email to that, it can be very challenging. And my heart goes out for them because they didn't ask for it. And they're great teachers and they're great in person teachers. But the challenge of teaching online is a whole different type of mental capacity. So, with that being said, what kind of professional developments and support has your team talked about to provide for teachers and school leaders?
So this is where my team is like fully responsible. Um, right now, what we're trying to do is leverage Schoology as our learning management system to set up like a playlist. So when we were doing our weekly trainings, we first started with every single campus had its own customized training done by my team of, at the time, I think we only had 20 of us. Um, we trained all 81, 82 campuses that we have in the district. And we wanted to make sure that they all had the bare minimum. Then after that, we started to embrace choice and gave them essentially like a choice board of these are the sessions that we're hosting this week. Attend all, attend one. You need to be the owner of your training. And that gained a lot of popularity because what we then realized is that those veteran teachers, those teachers who didn't quite catch on to the technology quite as quickly, um, they would attend the same session multiple times
Wow.
throughout the day or throughout the week. They would maybe just observe and sit and be passive the first one, but then maybe by the second or third time that they attended the same session, then they had questions to generate, and then they had actual thoughts, and they found like their snag spots. So with the success that we had there, we're developing like a playlist of training where you can self-assess yourself and say, okay, I know how to do this, this, and this, but I'm really not feeling confident in assessments through a virtual platform.
Right.
So let me just watch these sessions. But in addition to having those videos that they can watch, we're also setting up sessions for them to attend through Google Meet. We really liked our we did like little Q&A sessions
Mhm.
where we would do like a make and take. So today we were just talking about designing an assignment in Schoology. That's it. Setting up the links. Um, my mother-in-law is also an educator, and she's also in Aldine ISD.
Nice.
And she would text me and say, "Oh my gosh, they're talking about this, but I don't even understand. And when's the next session for this?" And by Friday, she's like, "Okay, I went to it 3 times. I totally understand. Now when I look at my notes, they make sense,
Yeah.
and I'm good." So it was really cool to be able to see how she grew and developed, and I would always have her in my mind of, okay, how is the pace of this lesson? Is this too strenuous? Maybe we should tier this. And so we've also started to do that. We've tiered by ability. So, we say we need to differentiate for the students. We also need to do so for the teachers.
Right. Right.
We don't want to insult intelligence. Like, I'm not going to have you sit through a Google, introduction when you can be doing so many more innovative and great things. So we don't want to hold down those that are able, but we do want to support those that need more support.
Wow. And I take it like, I mean, if you can even use like my Aunt Cindy as an example, like
Yeah.
how's their responses been as far as like have they been pretty gracious as far as teachers being willing and not so standoffish, like, you know what, no, I'm not going to self-assess myself, like you tell me what you want me to do. I mean, because unfortunately sometimes we have some pushback, but like anything else, it's like it sometimes it's maybe more just you're scared or just the fear of change, and nobody can blame anybody, we all have fear of different changes. But how's the response been when teachers like are they really like basically if you can just elaborate a little bit more, like how the response been when it comes to like, all right, let me just go ahead and dive into this.
So the vast majority, they embraced it and they said, you know what, this is what it is, and all right, I'm here. I know that I may have pushed back throughout the school year when you try to do these trainings, face to face. because it was like, we'll learn about that after, the standardized test passes.
Right.
Now they're like, oh, okay, it's time. It's time to learn it.
Yeah.
So the majority have been very gracious and willing, and have been willing to also embrace their shortcomings. Um, we'd get a lot of emails like, I know this is probably me. I can't figure this out. I'm so sorry. I'm sure you already told us. So we did have a lot of wonderfully gracious educators that understood that they had shortcomings and they had gaps in their knowledge, and they were looking to fill them.
Mhm.
That's not to say that it was all rainbows and butterflies. There were definitely those who got incredibly upset, who would feel the need to unmute themselves and tell the entire forum how upset they were with the process and with the things that we were trying to educate them on. But I would say for the thousands and thousands of educators that we have in this very large district, they were very few and far between. And more often than not, it was pretty cool to see the other educators kind of come up in support of us and say, hey, you need to put yourself on mute and ask your questions later. The rest of us are here to learn, and we want to learn this.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been without any speed bumps for
Right.
sure,
Yeah.
but they've been manageable.
No, absolutely. And you know what? And it's just it sounds it's perfectly normal. It's one of those things where we're all in uncharted territory. And this is the age of innovation. This is the age of collaboration. This is the age now where creativity is being embraced. And in addition to that,
Yeah.
one of the things I always tell my colleagues and people that I'm working with is that we need to have grace and we need to be willing to take risks and fail because we're expecting the same thing from our students that we're working with. We want to encourage them, hey, take a risk, fail, learn from that, and we have to
Yeah.
model it ourselves. And I've always even shared, and that's one thing I love about even having these kind of podcasts and discussions is because we can be real and talk about how nervousing this profession can be, especially from having to make a night and day shift like that from being completely a traditional school model to now being online and knowing that the face of education and the whole institution of education is going to be completely shifted forever now.
Yeah.
So
There's no going back. There is no more pre-COVID education. That's gone.
yeah, no,
But
absolutely. And
but I'm here for it.
same here. And I remember I told my wife like, hey, I'm going into year 8 now. I still have I look forward to another maybe 27 years in this, and who knows what it's going to look like. But if you're willing, I wouldn't mind having a follow up interview in about a year just to see like how did your school year go and just kind of reflecting on that. So if you're down maybe in June of 2021. And like I told you earlier, prior to recording this, maybe we can do it in person and we can just have the recording session there. So, but it
We
definitely,
should. It'll
yeah,
have to be on the beach. It'll have to be on the beach, though. I'm not taking any
absolutely.
other option.
Hey, I am totally down. We could definitely do a live session, a live YouTube. We'll probably go there next, but I really want to thank you so much for just sharing your wisdom and answering a few questions and I really wish you the best of luck this upcoming school year. Between now and when it starts, embrace your rest because just like you and myself, I mean, I am looking forward to this upcoming school year, but I know it's gonna be one where it's gonna be one for the record books. But like you said, like we're gonna have to take on, and I'm just gonna have to embrace my Texas side and grab the bull by the horns as we get ready for it.
Yep.
So
Oh, thanks for having me out. This was a lot of fun, and it's great to get to pick brains and share experiences with people on other parts of the country, because
oh,
we're
absolutely.
we're we're more united in our experiences than we tend to think in our little silos, especially in our little quarantine silos.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I look at it even just the different government styles and the different educational styles and policies that are in place within our states. The one thing I find consistent is the heart of a teacher. I mean, your heart as
Yep.
a teacher and the heart that you're sharing of your teachers in your district is very similar to the heart, my heart and the hearts of the teachers that I've even had a chance to work with. So we're truly blessed to be in this profession because we get to be the forefronters of really making a shift and a change. And yeah, and it's really really powerful. So I want to thank all of our listeners for tuning in today, and we really hope that today's episode and focus really was just beneficial to you. If you'd like to follow Suzy Garcia on Twitter, please follow her on the following handle. It'd be at Gadget S Garcia. I'm sure you'll find updates of what she's working with and how her and her district are conquering this distance learning, the challenges that are coming about, and as well as different things nationwide. Please feel free to send an email to CB Garcia at San Diego with any questions or topics of discussions. Also, be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram with the handle of Innovative Pedag. So it's Innovative PEDAG. So we want to thank you guys for tuning into our episode today, and we will see you guys and hear from you guys later. All right, thank you.